penalties, 180 of this number is, of the 189, 180 of the 189 is related to parking citation revenue, and then there's your interest revenue. So the total revenue adjustments are increasing by $1.4 million. And this chart just kind of shows the trajectory of our revenues over the last few years in a nice chart. The dark blue is what we adopted, and then this little yellow is what we're adjusting. So we're still going in the right trend. It's not as sharp, it's a little flatter, but it's still higher. So that's good. Expenditures. So for expenditures, overall, our projections and our base budget, our actuals are meeting our adopted budget. There are certain things that we did not budget for example, on purpose. For example, we did not budget for legal costs that says 0. Of course we have budget for our city attorney, but we do not budget for litigation or settlement-related costs, right? That's not really something that we either know or we really want in a public document, right? So our actual litigation-related costs are $1.2 million. So I told you earlier that our general fund expenditure projections are increasing $1.5 million. 1.2 of that is related to litigation-related costs. For liability insurance claims, we paid over $100,000 in general liability insurance claims last fiscal year. We did not expect this fiscal year's claims to be paid at that same level. In fact, it's doubled. We're expecting to pay over $200,000 this year. We have some high general liability claims that are our out-of-pocket, that we have to pay, that are not covered by the Cal JPIA. So that impact, the total amount is $168,000. The impact to the general fund is about $160,000 of that number. The overnight parking enforcement contract, we paid 0 because that was a new pilot program that was initiated by the City Council in the summer. So that contract began, by the time they came on board, they began around November of 2024. And so based on their bills so far, we have an expenditure increase of $150,000. The county share of parking citation revenue, honestly, we should have had some budget. Since we did budget some revenue, we probably should have budgeted some of the county's share. That was an error, and so actually the county share of this year's revenue is going to be $135,000.
The legal costs because of was that lawsuit, guys? Is that where it went up?
There's some of that is included.
Okay.
And then the Premier Park renovation project, the whole budget was over $1 million. $200,000 of that was expected to be funded by the general fund's assigned fund balance. And for the mid-year, we're taking that down to 0. The project is done, and Public Works did not need any of that $200,000. So that is good news. And trying to get this to match that. And that was a duplicate. You don't see that. You do not see that. Okay. So this is showing our adjustments in a chart in numerical order with numbers. So you will see most of that is legal costs is up here, and public safety, that's all the parking, citation related costs. $97,000, that includes the contracted building inspection and building plan check, and then the $200,000 reduction for Premier Park. So this is our revised expenditures. I will say in here we did try to remove some costs, especially we had some other savings from our general fund assigned fund balance. We have some vacant limited term positions that are being funded by that bucket of money that we call the general fund assigned fund balance. They're vacant. We're not planning to fill them since that limited term period's ending in June. So we did some reductions for the part-time administrative clerk in my department, that's vacant, the vacant management analyst in the city manager's office, the vacant limited term parking code enforcement officer in public safety. So we try to balance some of the increases with that. So this shows a little bit steeper than the revenues are flat. Is a little bit steeper. This is very common in governments where revenues don't go as quickly as expenditures. And this is an anomaly. If you remember, for those who were here at the council, this is when we funded a bunch of our contract costs with the Orange County Sheriff's Department from our ARPA funds. So that's why that was so low that year. Oops. And this just shows you our general fund revenues in comparison to our expenditures. And of course, the goal is always to have the blue line higher than the orange line. The orange line's the costs. You want your money coming in more than your costs. This year, the orange line is higher. That's as expected because let's remember about $4 million, which is about that gap. Sorry, the numbers look tiny, is being funded by that general fund, assigned fund balance bucket of money. So what does our reserves look like? They're fully funded, of course. When we expected the reserves to be $14.9 million, but we always have to do the calculation for these two reserves. The economic uncertainty, which is 20% of our general fund operating costs, and the emergency disaster continuity, which is 10%. So anytime our expenditures go up, then obviously those two reserves are going to go up. So our general fund reserves are going from $14.9 million to $15.2 million. That is 46% of general fund operating expenditures. That still leaves us with an unassigned fund balance of $18.7 million, which is 57% of our operating budget. And in total, between your reserves and your unassigned fund balance, that is $33.9 million, or 103% of our general fund operating fund balance. So that is quite a healthy available fund balance for
It
us.
used to be at 105 though, right, last year?
Last year was 109 when we ended the budget, yeah.
Thanks.
109 over here. Yes. Okay. So besides the general fund, we do have some adjustments in other funds. I just want to highlight a couple of them in the interest of time. The expenditure side is short, so I'll start to that. I already talked about the general liability claim. So the total cost is $168,000. That's going up. $158,000 of that is an impact to the general fund. The rest of it is being paid from other funds like the Housing Authority Fund, the Sewer Fund, etc. We are asking to add to ratify our funding of one full-time limited term code enforcement officer. That is being funded from two funding sources. A new federal tobacco grant is funding half of that. That'll be a 3-year grant. That's why this is a limited term position. When the grant ends, the position would go away unless the council wanted to continue to fund it. The other half would come from a new revenue source we have coming in this fiscal year, which is cannabis community benefit fees. So each of our 4 retail businesses have negotiated a community benefit fee to the city. And so now you're going to start one of them has fully paid 100% of what they agreed to pay. They're all different payments. They're not all the same. So one of them has fully satisfied their payment. The other 3 will have recurring payments in the next few years. This is how much we're expecting this year. And so we're going to fund this new full-time position with 50% from the grant and the rest from the cannabis community benefit fees bucket of money. Okay? We did increase legal costs in our housing authority budget too. There has been some litigation in the housing authority related to Tina Pacific that I think just concluded in January. So this is just kind of truing up those litigation costs because just like for the general fund, for the housing authority fund, we don't typically include any litigation related costs in our proposed budget. The repayment of a developer loan. The Verve developer loan for their public benefit fees was fully repaid. We expected to get paid in 2028, and they fully repaid it a couple of weeks ago. So these are public benefit fees that will be fully available for appropriation in our upcoming budget, and we're increasing our revenues accordingly. Our gas tax and SB1 tax monies are based on state estimates received in January, so it's almost $80,000 more than our adopted budget. But I was telling you earlier that the county's sales tax is down. Our Measure M revenue is driven by county sales tax revenue, so that's a negative. We had to we're increasing our gas tax money, but we're reducing our Measure M revenue. And then in the fall, we received an additional grant from the Public Safety Collaborative, the North Orange County Public Safety Collaborative, of $100,000. That is going to fund our outreach coordinator. Right now we have a limited term part-time outreach coordinator, and the funding we would have run out by September. So this will allow us to fund that position through June, and possibly we're discussing how to use all of it, because a part-time person is less than $100,000, and these funds expire June 30, 2026, and they're for a specific purpose. It's not like, oh, we don't need another outreach coordinator, so we're going to go use it for something else. So that's a discussion item in our department meetings we're going to be having, and then we'll be bringing a plan to you at your upcoming budget workshop in May. So for the CIP adjustments, the projects that had fundings, the reason why we're reducing them, we completed the citywide street rehabilitation project for fiscal year 22-23. That saved us $258,000. So that got returned to the gas tax fund. The $200,000 reduction for Premier Park, that's here on the parks projects, got returned to our general fund and assigned fund balance we talked about. And then we had a sewer project planned this fiscal year, and for over 1.8 million, I believe, and we're reducing it down to $600,000. Public Works has completed their scope of work and their RFP for this project, and it's not going to cost as much as what's in the plan. So overall, the CIP budget's reducing from 22.8 million to 21.3 million. And with that, I'll entertain any questions or approve staff recommendation.
I have a question. Did we ever get that adjustment squared away with our OCFA contract where they charged us too much?
I'm
Not aware.
I'm not familiar with.
Orange County Fire Authority, when they submitted our costs, they weren't correct.
Oh, the updated for next year. So
That's for
that's
fiscal year
next
25-26.
Yes, they did
okay
resubmit it, and we were happy to receive that.
How much was that?
40,000?
Yeah.
It wasn't huge, but it was a positive for us. Yeah.
Okay. Anything? How's our UAL?
Our UAL is, I'd have to I'll bring that to you at our budget workshop. We will have a slide about that.
Perfect. I think the council should be aware of that.
Yeah,
Especially on our.
Definitely will. I will say, because the investment earnings in the CalPERS pool is always a year behind, right? So I do know that in the last publishing of the UAL, which came out last August, it increased because of losses. While we're seeing this boom, we see it like 2 years behind on our UAL.
Yeah. So we do always include the UAL as part of our budget presentation. So we've included that in the last couple.
So I think an update on that would be good.
Yes, that's already planned for.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? As another stellar performance. Thank you. If anybody needs a note to tell your other partner or whatever that you were here, I can write it for you so you don't get chewed out for going home this late.
Approve staff recommendations.
Is there a motion on the floor to?
Voice
This
vote
has
or
got to be roll call, right?
all in, no,
Voice vote would suffice.
All in favor of the budget? Aye. Okay, I think that one passed, okay. All right. Is there any other business before? Oh, I forgot. We get to get the Orange County Sheriff Report.
Do you want to go down first through oral communications?
Do you have anything to say?
No.
Do you have anything to say?
Seeing none in
Okay,
the audience,
that's pretty easy.
none.
All right, Chief, you're up.
All right. Good evening again, Mr. Mayor and City Council. In February, Stanton deputies responded to 1,622 calls for service, which is an average of 57 a day. We observed 556 violations of law and conducted over 400 patrol checks in the city. 69 arrests were made to include 30 felony bookings, 24 misdemeanor bookings, 15 warrant bookings, and 5 DUI bookings. Our motor deputy issued 162 traffic citations, and throughout the month of February, we had 2 rapes, 5 robberies where suspects used several different types of weapons, 36 violent assaults, 4 burglaries, 38 thefts, and 6 stolen vehicles. Our response times in the month of February for priority 1s, 4 minutes, 9 seconds. Priority 2 was 21 minutes and 22 seconds, and priority 3s were at 37 minutes and 8 seconds. Our investigators currently have 58 cases open, but closed 38 cases in the month of February. And our special enforcement team had over 200 contacts with homeless individuals, 6 parolee probation contacts, and 7 prostitution contacts. Their own specific arrests, they had 10 felony arrests, 10 misdemeanor arrests, 6 warrant arrests, recovered 1 stolen vehicle, and had 4 cases referred to investigations. This concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I'm sure my fellow council members have noticed because the weather's really nice, we're getting a lot of new transients coming into the community. And so if there's something that we can do to help with the quality of life issues with some of those, it would be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Is there, go ahead.
I had to call over because the transient was drinking up Peach and Western, and the unit responded immediately, and I'm assuming they took him in because he was gone, but his stuff was left.
Okay.
The significant reason was because Jim took a week off, so no more days off for Jim, okay? All right, any other business? Okay, thank you for your patience.